Hello, beautiful people. My name is Aiden Schwetz, and I am Randy Bronson. I decided to take a couple weeks or, take my time to really decide how I wanted to respond to everything that happened and kind of continue with the project and just really take my time and calm down and do everything correctly and hopefully turn all of this into a positive, which is something I really like to do in situations like this and something that I think I've been pretty successful at in the past. So being able to turn Randy Bronson into a show where myself or me and other people talk about all of the ideas and stories and everything of that nature, but now add a video component to it. Also, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to your podcast, there is a video component of this, and there'll probably be a couple things I talk about where I throw screenshots up on the video just for you to take a look at, kind of see what I was seeing from behind the scenes. That'll be uploaded on YouTube, but I'm really excited to actually put my face behind this now because there was a lot of stories and a lot of things that happened in the background that I couldn't talk about on Twitter or on Instagram because it either would have exposed me or would have it led to me being outed. And so that's kind of what I'm taking this opportunity to do, is just give you the whole story of Randy Bronson from beginning, conception, idea, framing, all that stuff to current, everything that happened the whole time. And it is a whirlwind of a story. And if you know me, or if you've, played on a team of mine and you've heard my stories, like, this is one of the best ones. Like, I am so excited to tell you guys about this. So we're going to start at the beginning. The idea, or we're going to start even before Randy. So first thing I want to talk about is just the idea behind every single roller hockey project that I do with one of my partners, Alex Parrish, or any roller hockey project at all, whether it's a team or a good roller or the power ranking website or whatever it is. The idea behind everything that I do is just to grow and further the sport in any and every possible way and legitimize it. I know, and I think everyone else can agree, that roller is not the most legitimate sport as a whole, or at least in America. There is a lot of components of the sport that are missing, whether it's from the culture side or the actual management and structure side. And I want to fix everything. Or at least try to, or at least put people in the positions to fix a lot of things and grow the sport and legitimize it in every way possible. And that has been the mindset behind every project that I have done. Every time I play a game or step at the gym or whatever it is, that is my only goal with this, because I love this sport more than anything else in the world. And I have spent my entire life playing it. I started playing roller hockey when I was 4 years old at the Roller Dome in Thousand Oaks, California. And it has taken me all over the world. And I could never be more thankful to the sport of roller for helping me be able to do that. I do not regret any amount of time that I have ever put into anything roller related. This is my favorite thing, and I'm going to continue to dedicate, honestly, like my life and my career towards building roller hockey. That's all I really want to do. And it's all that excites me. It's what wakes me up in the morning. So that was the idea behind Randy, is I thought roller hockey needed a beat reporter. You needed a guy who was, the TMZ of roller hockey, or, a mix of, Entertainment Tonight and just, Jay on SportsCenter, where, some of the tweets are, oh, this is the score of this game, and this is a little bit of a storyline through the tournament. But also there's this wild thing that happened off the rink, kind of generate interest in players and generate interest in careers and outside storylines. Think of all the stories in the real sports world, basketball, football, whatever it is, where tons of hype and tons of interest is generated in a player because of something that happened off the rink or something that happened out of the norm. You know, think of a perfect example right now, Brittany Griner. Absolutely nobody knew who this woman was before she got arrested in Russia. And now everybody knows who she is. And it's probably not the best thing to be known for. She didn't really do anything wrong. But that's just, people just are interested in that stuff. People love drama. People love, shit talking. People love things like that. And that's what they like. And there is none of that in roller hockey, at least not public facing. Like, of course, there are drama off the rink, but it's in tight circles. And it's like, oh, this guy said this and this guy said this. And there's no like public account of anything to be able to generate interest in these players. And it's such an important part of sports. Roller didn't have it, and I like really, really knew that roller needed this. And clearly people agreed. People loved Randy. I received so many DMs over the time that Randy was anonymous, just in general support. And whether it was DMing me a story or DMing me, oh, Randy, love what you're doing. And it was crazy how much support Randy exploded. Anyways, why Randy Bronson? Why the name? Why the white guy? Why all that stuff? Well, I'll start with the name. So Randy Bronson, I kind of bounced a bunch of ideas off of one of my buddies that I trust. And I personally love the show Archer. Actually, kind of funny. A new season just came out. In the show Archer, whenever Archer goes undercover, when he goes anonymous, he uses the name Randy Randleman, and I think it's hilarious. So obviously, I couldn't use Randy Randleman, but I love the name Randy. But we needed like a strong, just a strong last name. And fairly generic. I didn't want to do Randy Johnson. It's too generic. So I did Randy Bronson. Literally, that was the thinking behind it. Not Johnson. Let's do Bronson. So there you go. That's Randy Bronson. That's how they came up with the name. Why the photo? I literally Googled generic white guy headshot on Google, and that photo popped up on like the second or third page, and that was it. That was the whole idea behind it. Actually, I didn't find out until a couple weeks into doing this that the real guy that is the photo is an author on Amazon, and I wasn't able to find too much information on him, but he had a couple of books published, which I think is hilarious. The vibe, like why a generic white guy, and why anonymous. So let's do like kind of zoom out a little bit, right? If there was a real person that think of any of your friends that play roller, and that person was just like, I'm a reporter now, and I am going to start a Twitter account and start reporting on shit, you would not take him seriously, especially if it was me. There are so many people in the roller community that did not take me seriously before this. I mean, a lot of people did too, but a lot of people also didn't. And so if I just came out with my personal 8-inch sweats, oh, I'm a reporter now, absolutely nobody would have taken me seriously. Everyone would have been like, oh, who's this like fucking kid who's just, oh, fucking college kid, he's a reporter now, he's just, who does this guy think he is? He has no experience, da-da-da-da. No one would have taken me seriously, and no one would have taken anybody seriously. It wouldn't matter who it was. If it was a pro player, people would have said, oh, this guy's a pro, like, he doesn't know what men's silver's like, why is he taking time out of his day to talk about this shit? And if it was a silver player, low-level men's league player, or even a kid, everyone would have just been like, who is this guy? He's got no experience, he doesn't know anybody. Why is he the reporter? No, what does this guy fucking know? He doesn't know anything. He's just making shit up. So it couldn't have been anybody. It had to be nobody. It had to be a nobody, an anonymous nobody that just reported as honestly as possible and without fear of bias. And that is something I really, really, really tried my best to do, was be as unbiased as possible. Now, of course, it is impossible to be completely unbiased. I totally understand that. But I tried to take a neutral stance as best as I could, or at least align with what was being said the most. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, I just like stepped in line with popular opinion, but a lot of what I reposted, a lot of the things that I posted were just quotes of what other people said. It wasn't even my own opinion. So anyways, we'll get back on track here. That was why Randy Bronson had to be anonymous. It is because of everything I just said, and I still believe that it was the right choice. You know, in the roller community, it's such a small, tight-knit community, even like not just in America, but all over the world. Everybody knows everybody, especially when you start into getting into the higher levels of playing. Everyone knows everyone. So it had to be anonymous, and I stand by going anonymous. I still think it was the right decision. And, you know, obviously now it's not anonymous, and we're just, you know, rolling with the punches, and I'm okay with everything. You know, I like how everything played out. So getting into the actual story, the sequence of events of Randy Bronson beginning to now. So when I started Randy Bronson, I was at Tours in Florida, and I had a really bad schedule. I literally had one game a day for 9 days. So I had 8 games in 9 days. I was bored out of my mind. I had sometimes 12 to 18 hours in between games. I was so bored. I was literally just hanging around the rink because I had a bunch of friends who were playing, so I'd stick around and watch all my buddies. But I myself was not really doing much. So I basically just said, fuck it. Now is a great time to start this account because, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but whenever I get bored, I start a new project. It's just what I do. If I have a task list that is, you know, starting to dwindle, I don't have a lot on my plate, or like right now, you know, right now I am in between my summer semester and my fall semester, got a couple weeks of no classes. I've cranked out a lot of my task list. GCU is basically all ready to go. A lot of good roller projects are all completed. So kind of in this like in between phase of being able to take a couple of hours to really start something and get it up and running to kind of be autonomous throughout the school year. Because yeah, that's just what I do. It's whenever I start to get antsy, I just start something new. It's just, I don't know. It's something I've always done, even before roller hockey. So I made the account while I was sitting in the tour arena of Tours. And I just started tweeting. No official announcement. No, I'm Randy Bronson, and here's what I'm going to do, and this is what this account's going to be. None of that. All I'd started doing was I think my first tweet actually was just adding on to a Roller Dad News tweet of they were announcing the pro awards from the pro tournament, and I just happened to be sitting there watching the pro final, and they missed like 2 little pieces of information. I just added on to it and posted that on Instagram and posted that on Twitter. And then I just did it a couple more times. And then I started getting really into the 21 AAA division and the 18 AAA division. And I was hanging around the rink all fucking day. I was just watching 50 fucking hockey games a day. You know, I had the time to watch shit happen, and I couldn't get anything else done. Like the Wi-Fi was horrendous in that building. I couldn't work on any of my other work, so I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. It's like, this is the time to do it. So 24 hours after I started the Randy Bronson account, and keep in mind, I had posted nothing dramatic at this point. It was just basic ass shit. It was, this guy won this individual award. This goalie was top goalie, and here was his percentage. Or, wow, this guy scored a really cool goal, in this game. It was nothing crazy, nothing dramatic. It was just kind of starting to build storylines throughout the Tours tournament, which, again, was obviously one of the goals of Randy. I'm sitting in the tour arena, and I'm actually in the middle of writing a tweet. No one's around me. I'm by myself. And my buddy from Lindenwood, Dylan Dale, if you don't know who Dylan Dale is, the guy that runs Farm Tough, it's his son. He went to Lindenwood with me. He was on my team. Love that kid. Love that kid to death. fucking walks up to me, and he sits down. He's like, "Dude, have you seen this account?" I'm like, "What? What account?" And he's like, "Dude, like this guy, he's just like a dad, like reporter guy, and I don't know, he just started tweeting, and it's like so sick. He's like saying all this stuff that like none of the other accounts like Roller Dad News or Wheel Talk or whoever it might be like would cover, because it's just like minutia, tiny niche stuff, but it's like really cool." And I was gritting from ear to ear. I was trying so hard to hide myself. I'm like, "Oh my God, I started this shit yesterday and people are already coming to me directly, like me of all people." So I'm just sitting next to him. I'm just like, "Yeah, man, like, I don't know. I haven't seen that, but that's pretty cool." Da, 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 da. And like totally played it off, and he didn't know. And I got up and left. I went to the restaurant, and I was just like, "Holy fuck, that was quick. That was one fucking day." I had started 24 hours prior. I'd only sent like 9 tweets out, and I was already getting like without him knowing, I was already getting recognized in public. It was ridiculous. So then a couple days later, like 3 days after I started this account, was the single A playoff game versus the Florida Citrus Kings and the Texas Tidal Wave. So if you don't remember the story that Randy covered, basically it was this random playoff game at like 11:30 at night that had been delayed, and there was just this. It was right after, or maybe it was in the middle of the tournament. I can't remember. Where there's just this fan section of neither side. Like none of us were. I mean, I was. I had a buddy on the Citrus Kings. That's who I was staying with at tours, but nobody was like a Tidal Wave fan or a Citrus Kings fan. It was just all roller guys who were still around the rink. It was a lot of the Palma Silver Knights. It was mainly what this entailed of getting rowdy as fuck. And it was honestly one of the best roller experiences I ever had, period. You know, obviously, you know, it happens a lot in ice hockey, but it doesn't really happen in roller. These guys were going crazy, and I was shaking the boards. People were, you know, drinking beer through their shirts and out of shoes. Bailey Simpson, shout out to that legend. And honestly, I just got really lucky that this happened, and I got really lucky that I was right there witnessing it. So basically how it started, how the fan section kind of started, was it was this random playoff game, and this kid on the Texas Tidal Wave did this really dirty hit on one of the Citrus Kings, and everyone got up in arms, and everyone started screaming, and then there was these massive delays. The refs couldn't figure out what to do, and then someone threw a water bottle on the rink, and people were, you know, mopping the water off the floor, and every time he would mop, we would cheer, and then there was such a long delay that one of the Citrus Kings started shooting pucks on an empty net, and every time he would score, we would go crazy. I mean, it was hilarious. It was literally, it was just, you had to be there. Even the videos that I posted did not do what was going on justice, and there wasn't even that many of us. There was maybe like 40 guys sitting there like watching this almost nothing happen. And a bunch of videos were taken, a bunch of photos were taken. I knew that I couldn't be the one to be taking videos and pictures. I had to just rely on everyone else and use the Randy Bronson account to kind of aggregate them and ask for other people for them to you know, aggregate it towards me. And that was my first like cool story, right? It was this first time where I got to post something that was just out of the norm. That it wasn't like this guy scored this goal or this was this stat. Like it was just a really cool thing that happened in the community, and like not something that would have been covered by somebody else. And Randy blew up over this story. People were going crazy in a couple different ways, right? They were going crazy because the fan section was electric, and all those the photo of Brian Gans drinking a beer through his shirt, or Bailey Simpson shooting a beer out of his shoe. Those videos, like, people were going crazy over that. And people were also going crazy just over the hit. I mean, this kid was a super dirty hit. He ended up posting it on his Instagram like he was bragging about it. Then he took it down. And people were, I mean, the Capital City Kraken posted a comment that was literally like citing the fucking rule book. I mean, people were getting into it. There probably was 50 comments under this post, maybe more. And it just really, really brought a lot of attention to the Randy page and kind of blew up overnight. And then throughout the rest of the tournament, I kind of just followed single A, got a couple more videos of like dirty hits or this or that, and got some views, whatever. So Tours is over, and we're about 10 days after I had started this page. It was only literally 10 days. It was June 26th to July 6th, I believe. Rob Woods, he texted me like seconds after he texted Randy. He's like, yo, super random question. Are you Randy Bronson? I was like, nah, not me. Like, I don't know why a couple people thought it was me. I wish. What a cool idea. And so he didn't know. But so we started talking back and forth, like, as Randy and Rob, and basically told me like he really wants to grow Roller Dad News, kind of wants to turn it into this like Barstool Sports of roller hockey, add a bunch of people, bunch of different content. Thinks Randy would be a great addition, just because I'm covering roller in a very different way than the macro perspective that Roller Dad News is doing. And plus, using Randy, I could definitely get away with covering stories that they couldn't. So I agreed to join. I mean, it was a huge thing for Randy. I mean, 10 days into this, I'm joining one of the most idolized companies in the entire sport of roller hockey on planet Earth. This is a huge step, and it took no time at all. It was incredible. And this is when I knew that the idea of Randy Bronson was validated, and that it was, first of all, that it was a good idea, and that people like it. And that there is a longevity to this project that, oh my God, I'm joining Roller Dad News. This is fucking crazy. So Randy Bronson joins as a anonymous beat reporter of Roller Dad News, or a contributor, I think we called him. And one of the best parts, what I really like to say, is Rob was super respectful and understanding of the anonymity and the need to be anonymous. He said, I didn't know this, but I guess Roller Dad News actually started kind of as an anonymous project for the first 2 years of its existence. So he completely understood, very appreciative of it. And, he didn't know, which hilarious that he guessed me first. And, obviously that's ended up who it being. Yeah, joined Roller Dad News, and, they sent this tweet out. Randy was his breath of fresh air. And I was so excited, for about 10 seconds. And then at like 3 o'clock in the morning, after, it was announced that I joined Roller Dad News, is when I posted the thread of my opinion of tours. Just like the individual aspects, the venue and the tile and, the scheduling and the promotion, all that stuff. And people fucking loved this thread. I was shocked. I had probably 15 different pro players, people that are in the pro division, reach out to me. Dude, this is dead fucking accurate. Like, I can't believe you're, out there saying these things, letting people know. Like, everyone agreed with this. And which is another thing I'll talk on later, but a lot of people didn't even think I was harsh enough. I mean, they thought I was like sugarcoating it. I didn't. I was as honest as I could possibly be. And I got to give credit for how Tours responded to this, but I'll talk about that later. I got this outline kind of that I'm following, make sure I don't miss anything. But because I posted this thread and it was this critique, which again, in the bio of Randy Bronson, I said all posts are my opinion and are not the reflection of anyone else. Or it's not the exact thing that's not verbatim, but that's essentially what it said. And this critique was my opinion. That was it. It was Randy Bronson's opinion on Tours. This was not the New York Times shitting on a company. It was just some guy on Twitter saying like, hey, I didn't really like the live stream situation or the fact that the ice wasn't melted on the tour rink. But you know what? There's also some other these good things. Like the venue was super nice. It was all indoors, and it was a nice ice facility. There's 3 sheets. There's some good parts. There were some bad parts. I thought it was a very fair critiquing. So, anyways, because of it, there were some people in the Tours staff that started reaching out to Rob and Anth and Dwyer, and basically saying, who the fuck is this guy? He's just why is he saying these things? And this was all behind the scenes. And I don't really blame them for wanting to know who I am. I totally get it. Anyone tries, even though I wasn't taking a shot at Tours, I could see how it came off. And obviously they want to know who I am, not blaming them at all. And especially because, the rating ended up being it was like a 4.2 or something. And I'm sure that probably did not go over super well in their boardroom. But this is kind of when pressure started to build against Randy, and I'll continue with how the pressure was built through a couple different events. But after this thread, this is kind of when people started to respect Randy as more than just a beat reporter and more than just this guy just reports, stats and facts and weird fan sections. They kind of started to respect him as a professional, and we started to respect his opinion as like a professional voice for the people that play roller. And it was after this thread that I started to get messages one really stuck out in my head. And this guy, I don't know who he was, but he DM'd me and he was basically like, hey, I don't really want to tell you how to do your job, but I'm sure it sounds like you have a lot of reporting experience. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just some college student that barely graduated high school. This guy thinks I'm a professional reporter with a life of experience. This is insane. And that happened a couple different times. People were just like, I'm sure you have experience. You clearly know what you're doing. And, it really felt good that obviously I think at this point, I had some public validation that I was doing this correctly, and I was speaking correctly, and I had created a brand image and a brand voice that was respectful and professional, and seemed like a generic white dad. I mean, that was really what I was going for. I even before this whole started, I kind of wrote down all of the words that I typically use in, conversation with my friends. I made sure I avoided all of them when tweeting. I had a list of 50 words that I use all the time that would totally that would out me because I talk a lot, I tell a lot of stories with my friends, and they would have caught me. So I really fabricated is probably a bad word, but I fabricated Randy in a way that people were responding to, and that was really important to me. So now. We're starting to get into the World Games. The World Games, man. So coverage started pretty normal. Posted some expectations, predictions, small inside scoops from players and staff, and the bus riding situation between USA and Canada. Had some fans chirp in oh, they've been doing this for years and it's so fucked and whatever. Just small beans. Then I started to get reports from multiple sources, I might add too, that some of the USA players were going to miss a round-robin game against France to fly to Denver, I can't remember where it was, to play in 3-ice. And if you don't know what 3-ice is, it's this summer ice hockey league, I think. It had $1 million prize pool this year. It's covered by CBS Sports. Some people you might know are Brendan Hawkins, and John Chavo plays in it. The Elevato 2 guy up in Vermont plays in it sometimes. But this was a huge deal. This was for a couple different reasons. One, yes, I did think that, and I still do to some degree, but I'll explain in a second. But I thought that this was it was pathetic, and it was a really, really bad look for the sport. That players on Team USA in the largest stage in roller hockey, the World Games is the biggest international tournament in roller hockey ever, that these guys were just leaving to go play in some brand new fucking league that no one follows. And yes, they were getting paid, and I understand that is a very important component of it. But, they were basically, to me, they were telling the roller community, or at least showing to the roller community, whether they meant to or not, that literally anything ice is more important than roller, even at the highest level. To me, it was they were leaving the highest level of roller to go play a 6th sixth professional league of ice hockey, down below the Fed or something. That's just how they were treating it, and that's how it was presented to me. Secondly, and I'll continue that in a second, but secondly, it was important because this was Randy Bronson's first huge, juicy story. This is a huge deal, and I got to be the first one to break it because people loved Randy and people were reporting. I got why isn't Brendan Hawkins in this tournament? Why isn't this guy in this tournament? I'm sorry, in this round robin game against France, and started poking around, and people started telling me, they're at 3 Ice, and it wasn't like no one was gonna find out, right? I mean, 3 Ice is live streamed through CBS Sports. People are gonna see that they weren't at the World Games and they were at 3 Ice. It was bound to happen anyways. I was just excited because I got to be the first one to report it to the public. That was a big deal for Randy. So I wrote the headline, and granted, might have been a little harsh, but I stand by everything that I said with the exception of one sentence. And in the entire Randy Bronson run up until this day, it is the only sentence I actually regret writing, and I think I went too far. And the sentence I regret writing was when I said, shame on USARS and Tim McManus for allowing this, and I'll explain in a second why I regret this. Again, the only thing that I have written so far that I wish I would have taken a little bit extra time to find out a little bit more information before I wrote it, but I hope that you can understand why it ended up happening. So now that everything had transpired, let me tell you how things were explained to me. First, I was told that they weren't there. They went to 3 Ice, and to me, obviously, they chose ice over roller. And to me, it looked like USARS and Tim were allowing this. Obviously, I was not in the room when they were having these conversations, but from the outside, from the public, it looked like they were just letting this happen because they fucking left. They weren't there. And that is truly, and from my sources, that is all they knew too. This wasn't like anyone was holding anything back for me to make me look bad or anything like that. Anyways, posted this headline, and people lost their fucking minds on both sides. Okay, people went nuts, and gotta be honest, it was really funny watching both sides just kind of explode. And because I'd never seen anything in roller like this where people got so heated on both sides of the coin, and here were the two sides. And obviously, yeah, so basically the two sides of it were, these guys shouldn't have left, this is bullshit, this infuriates me, they're making roller look so bad. And the other side of it was like, they're professional athletes, they need to make their money. 3 Ice pays, roller hockey doesn't. How could you blame them? What the fuck? But I gotta say, the far, far, far majority of people agreed with Randy's take. With my take. I don't know why I keep saying Randy like I'm not him, but with my take on it. And I was flooded with DMs and comments and tweets and all this shit, and I was literally in the gym when this was going on. I had posted it, and I went to the gym, and I was sitting on the gym floor for over an hour, just responding to people. Ruined my workout, but basically everyone agreed with me, with the exception of literally there was one negative tweet, I think, by Phil Marin. If you don't know Phil Marin, it's Pat's brother. Who said, this is a bad take. And I thought it was really funny because one of the guys that left, Brandon Hawkins, liked that too. He was like the first one to like it. Thought it was really funny. Yeah, I'm not going to get into Phil. But the other, let's see, sorry. Looking at my outline here. So all this stuff is going on. People are calling Roller Dad News. What the fuck? Why would he say this? Why would he break this story? And other people were hearing other things from Team USA members, and dads of players were even DMing me, what the fuck? You're fucking with the flow of the team. And you got to understand. I was not thinking of how this would affect the team dynamic of Team USA. And obviously, I care about Team USA. If you take a step back, as a anonymous reporter, that's not something that I could take into consideration. My job as a reporter was to report. Like, that was it. And obviously, this is a self-anointed position, and I understand that. But conceptually, people's feelings was not something I could take into consideration. And I hope conceptually everyone kind of understands that, or, yeah. So now that time has transpired, we'll zoom out to a broader perspective. And now I, to my understanding, I now know the whole story, or at least know most of the story, as basically what actually happened behind the scenes. Basically what happened was the rosters for 3Ice, like the people who tried out and made the team, came out after the rosters were due for the World Games. So there was a couple guys who were chosen for Team USA, and the roster was submitted to the World Games, and then later the people who made the 3Ice rosters came out. So there was a couple guys who were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and there was no way to replace the guys on the Team USA roster because it had already been sent to the World Games and they were locked in. There was a deadline, and they met that deadline. So I have a little bit of sympathy for the situation, and I hope you can understand that. However, and granted, I have not seen a 3Ice contract. I don't know how the contracts work. I don't know a ton about 3Ice. I know the basics. I watched one of them. But I know that 3Ice has subs for all the teams. I know they all have subs. So I do have a hard time believing that there was absolutely no way they could have gotten out of their, 1 day of games without totally blowing up their contract. Maybe it did. Maybe it would have blown up their contract. I don't know. This, again, all of this is my opinion. This is just an opinion. I'm just some dude. But I just have a hard time believing that there was no way they could have gotten out of that weekend. The other thing is, a lot of people ask me if I thought that they just shouldn't have played for Team USA and left the team stranded the whole time with, the 9. Out of the 12 guys, I think they would have been left with 9. And I thought about this for a long time. Do you just leave these guys to have 9 and go play your ice? And I think yes. Honestly, I think yes. And I know a lot of people are going to absolutely hate that statement. I get it. But this is my thinking, right? If you are a professional ice hockey player and you make your money or need to be making money through professional ice hockey, first off, that's fucking awesome. Congratulations. You are one of 1% of players that gets to say that they do that. I am not knocking you in any way. I did not make it that far, obviously. That's why I'm fucking sitting here being a roller reporter. But go do that. If that is your priority and you need your livelihood based off of ice hockey, go do that. And obviously these guys care about roller enough where they're not going to purposely try and make roller hockey look bad. So even if they can't give those opportunities to someone else because they were locked into the roster, don't, make it look like you're treating the World Games like a fucking weekend regional qualifier where you miss your Saturday night game because you had to go to dinner with your girlfriend's parents. That's what it looked like to the public, and that's how it was perceived, probably because of me. But people would have construed their own ideas anyways. They saw you guys at 3Ice, and they saw them not at the World Games. It was going to transpire anyways. So yeah, I think it was a really bad look. I think it could have been handled better. And you know what? I think they all know that too. I think they know that it probably wasn't handled the best. I also don't really blame Tim for anything that happened. Now that I know more of the story, also, I heard, again, rumor, unconfirmed, but it's 2 different people that told me that Tim actually kind of agreed with what I said to an extent, not everything that I said. And I got to give him props for even vocalizing that if he did. That's again unconfirmed. But yeah, so that was the first big thing, and that was where the massive amount of pressure started mounting on Randy. And so let's take a step back for a second. So at this point, I've now let's say caught the attention of Tours. I've now caught the attention of State Wars and Tim, who are now both calling for Randy. Like, who is the fuck is Randy Bronson? Like, why is he saying these things? Why is he exposing us? Those guys that were on Team USA saying, "Why are you sewering us?" I wasn't trying to sewer you, obviously. Like, well, never do that. But I said I would get back to this. I'm gonna get back to this now. Tours reached out to me, reached out to Randy in a very professional manner. Basically said, "We saw your thread. We're always looking to improve. We would love to have an open discussion about how we can improve in the future." And fucking praise them. Obviously, we never had the conversation. A bunch of things transpired, wasn't able to do that. I hope that they're still willing to talk. But just props to them for doing it very professionally, understanding that I wasn't trying to rip into them, and like taking it like champs. I mean, they really did. I mean, really big props to Tours for the way that they handled everything. Very professional, and I appreciated it. And now that everyone knows that, I didn't really get to put this on Twitter, but I hope everyone else appreciates that about how they handled it as well. Now, Narch. So at the end of the World Games, we're getting towards the end of the World Games, is when Narch was about to start. And Narch DM'd Randy, and he said, "So I don't have the actual text, or I don't have the DM anymore. Obviously, Brandy's now been blocked, and I thought I took a screenshot of it. It looks like it did, and I went through my phone a couple times, never found anything." But Darren DM'd Randy, or whoever ran Narch, I'm assuming it was Darren, basically said, "Don't bother reporting on my tournament," and a couple other things. Maybe not the best worded, but something that, Randy is BS or reporting is BS, and da-da-da-da. I don't really blame him for saying that. At the time, I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would he ever say this? But thinking back on it, like, from his perspective, there is this guy that is just, going to tournaments and ripping into these tournaments and like, oh, this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad. And so probably could have been handled a little bit differently, but I understand why he probably didn't want me reporting on Narch. I get it. It makes sense. So, obviously he didn't want the image of Narch being tainted. So yeah, I get it. However, and, I don't know, but there is this meme video out there that says, "I do not want peace. I want problems. Always." And I know it's from a movie. I don't know what movie it's from, but over the past probably like 9 months to a year of my life, that statement, "I do not want peace, I want problems, always," has just been like my life motto. It's been my mantra. I need to get that tattooed. Like, I don't know why, but everything that I do, it just seems to create less peace and more problems. And I think it's funny. I don't know. It's just own that shit. So I had that in my head, and I got this DM like, "Oh, what the fuck? Why would this guy say this?" And it's just like, well, you don't want me to report? I'm going to report even harder, So the end of the world, and I don't really know what that meant, but like, or what it meant to report harder, but I was like, what the fuck? No, I'm definitely going to continue reporting. I have freedom of speech, and I DM'd him back, I don't even remember what I said. It was just like, I hope that I was professional and respectful. I think I was. I don't remember anything that I did that wasn't. But obviously I can't go back and see what I said now. It's gone. So Narch Men's Silver begins. And there is the story of the guy, his name's John LaBelle, who beat up this younger kid in a men's silver game. Now, that was basically it. What was really interesting about the story was that there was a photo of John, like with his arm up. You can go on the Randy Bronson page right now and go look at it. It's still up. I haven't deleted anything. His arm is all the way up here, and there is this kid in the fetal position with his arms over his head, like really crunching like this. And I mean, it was just a hilarious photo. I mean, it was this older guy, big old beard, and this little kid, and he was like this. And how it was, how it got to me was 5 different people sent me this story. Okay, there was 3 people on the Spearmint Rhinos. There was 1 person on the Peoria Ignite, and there was a 5th person who was just watching. Now, I happen to be in a very interesting position on this story for a couple reasons. One, I personally know basically everybody on the Spearmint Rhinos. Almost everyone. They are all my hometown friends. I grew up with a lot of them. Obviously, they did not know who I was or who Randy Bronson was. And I get to tell a little bit funny story about them later. And I have now live in Phoenix, Arizona, which Peoria is now my home rink. It's Grand Canyon's home rink now. So I know who John LaBelle is. And I know who the guy is that DM'd me. And the 5th guy, I also knew the 5th guy. I know that one, he never lived in Arizona. He's never lived in California. There is a 99.9% chance that he did not know anybody on either team. And in the message that he sent me, he even said that he was just watching this game, waiting for something else. I can't remember what it was. I think it was like his wife to finish playing or his buddy or whatever it was. And so he saw this all go down. He took like a photo or 2, sent it to me. And so from the outside perspective, here is how everything looked like was, right? John LaBelle I've played against him many times. He's a scary looking dude, right? And he can be intense sometimes. He's a nice guy sometimes, but I played against him many times, and he can get intense. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually, I kind of praise him for it. People that take shit seriously, people that take roller hockey seriously, whether it's in silver or it's in pro or it's a tournament or a men's game, I don't give a shit. If you take things seriously, I respect you. And because I think way too few people actually take this seriously. So I know that he can get intense. I know that he's very scary. I know that he could beat the absolute shit out of me. He's a large, large man. I also know the kid on the Spearmint Rhinos, who this was like one of the kids on the roster that I didn't know. I knew of him, but I didn't know his name, so I couldn't look him up. Like I couldn't look up his elite prospects. The only thing I knew about him is that he looks like he's 13, okay? He looks like a kid. So for the guy that was standing on the outside like, wow, this old man or older guy is beating up this fucking child, I can understand how some time within the game of telephone, the idea that this kid was 17 made it through the cracks and made it to me. And 2 things. One, I know I've played men's league many, many, many times. I know that this is not a Narch thing. Like, none of the men's divisions check birth certificates, right? There are thousands and thousands of players. I viewed it to be completely plausible that this kid slipped into men's league unbeknownst to Narch, unbeknownst to Tours, whatever it might have been, and happened to get into this situation, right? Not a knock on Narch, not a knock on any of the tournaments. I could see this as a plausible situation that has happened. I personally know guys that have played in tournaments who were 17 in the men's division, and they just didn't tell anybody, and nothing bad happened, and it probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I've seen it happen before, okay? Now, a couple of the things really backed up this story. Also, I couldn't just go reaching out to my friends on the Spearmint Rhinos and be like, hey, how old is this kid? Like over text through as Aiden. And then I would have posted on Randy like, oh, correction, this guy wasn't 17, he was 20. And because they would have made me immediately. I couldn't use that resource. And I DM'd them using the Randy page, and nobody responded. In fact, no one corrected me at all for days. And John LaBelle deleted his Instagram, which to me was admitting guilt. And like, no one from the Spearmint guys corrected me. Nobody from Narch corrected me. Nobody from Peoria corrected me. No one corrected me for a while. And finally, someone from the Spearmint Rhinos DM'd me saying, hey, this kid's not 17. He's 20. This is his name. You can look him up. And so I posted a retraction on my Twitter. I said, also part of the original story was that he was suspended for a year. I also found out that that was not true. But I could totally see him being suspended for a year for this because at tours, first of all, I've seen many people get suspended. And almost always for a year. It's either like one game or a year. That's like the only two things I've ever seen. But at tours, the kid that laid the hit on the Citrus Kings player, he also got a year suspension. So it was like, this was fresh in my head. This just happened. This was all 100% possible. I could see all of this happening. And there was no part of me that was like, this is kind of fishy. Like, no, it was all like, yeah, this probably did happen. There's most likely. So I know that Darren got upset over this. Obviously, I'm still friends with with all these Spearmint guys, and they were telling me some things that they did not know that I was Randy. So I was kind of gathering information just because I was hanging out with them at Narch. I knew that Darren was upset. Probably should have done something to extend an olive branch, and I think I did that later. At least I thought I did. I know that I am not completely faultless in this situation. There might have been a better way to fact check some stuff. And again, learning as I go, brand new project. So I'm taking a step back here. And this is one of the stories that I'm really excited to talk about because this is something that directly involved me that I couldn't talk about on the Randy Bronson Twitter account or Instagram. So the Spearmint Rhino kids, there are 4 kids on that team that are literally my best friends. I fucking play with them all the time. They're from my hometown. I grew up with them. I played on ice hockey teams and roller hockey teams with them. They're my boys. After this story came out, they were fucking freaking out that Randy covered this story and covered it, to the extent that I did. And so they actually came over to my house. Again, they don't know that I'm Randy. Came over to my house, and they were all sitting on my couch. I'm like, dude, what if we told him this story? What if we told him this story? And what if they were the kids that were trying to sell stories, whatever. And it got to a point where one of my friends was like, dude, what if I became an affiliate reporter for Randy? And I showed up to Narch, and I had a giant camera, and I was wearing a suit. And, I take videos to send stories to Randy. Do you think he would post them? And literally they were asking me hey, do you think Randy would post this story? And in my head, I'm like, maybe. You never know. I don't know this guy. And oh my God, on the inside, I was crying, laughing that this was literally happening right before my eyes. And they had no fucking idea whatsoever that I was Randy. So it got to a point where I was literally going in my dad's closet, grabbing suit jackets and ties and dressing up my friend. And they started taking videos of him. He was holding a hockey stick or it was a spatula or whatever it was as a microphone. And they were interviewing each other this is so-and-so as a reporter for Randy Bronson. And I'm here with so-and-so. And what did you think of that last game? And they were taking all these videos. I was, no joke, you can ask them. I was on the ground crying, laughing from how funny this was. But the best part is they didn't know why I thought it was so funny. They thought it was funny because the interviews were funny. It was funny because I knew that if they sent these videos to me, I was going to post them immediately. And once everything, came out that I was Randy Bronson, they all fucking texted me and DM me, how did you not fucking tell us? We were in your house taking videos. What the fuck? And oh my God, I was crying, laughing on the inside. The best part is that literally one of the only people that knew that I was Randy was my mom. I told my mom, and my mom was there. And every time they would DM Randy while they were in my house and on my couch, I would just be like, oh boys, I got to go to the bathroom 1 sec. And I would go to the bathroom. I would DM them back. I would run to my mom's room Mom, do you hear this shit? They're all talking about Randy. And she's like, oh my God, I know, it's so funny. And I'd run back to the fucking couch. And She'd be like, "Hey, what's going on, boys?" And then just like, "Dude, Randy just DM'd me back. Like, this is so sick. He's like so responsive." I was fucking crying. I was crying, laughing on the inside. I had the hardest time keeping it together. But I did. I kept it together. Nobody knew. Nobody found out. And this happened a second time. One of my best friends of my entire life, his name's Adam Poe. You'll probably, learn about him later on. He's definitely going to come on the podcast eventually. I was sitting in the car next to him, and he was DMing Randy about something. I don't even remember what it was about. This was before the Spain story. We'll talk about that later. And he was DMing Randy some info. I don't remember what it was. And I was sitting next to him. I was in his fucking passenger seat, DMing him back on the Randy account. And every time I would hit send and lock my phone, he would look at me like, "Oh, dude, Randy's typing." And I'm literally sitting there typing like fucking 2 feet away from him. And he's like, "Dude, Randy responded. Oh, what was what he said." And I had the hardest time keeping it together. We were 1 foot away from each other, and he did not figure it out. And when everything came out, he told me that he literally just sat in his office at the Plex up in San Jose. He runs that rink, or used to. And was just like jaw on the floor, like, how did I not know? He was sitting right next to me. Anyways, that was just the best story ever. That interaction between me and my best friend, of him not knowing, made the whole thing worth it. That made this entire fuckfest of Randy Bronson worth it. How are we doing on time? I feel like I've been talking here for a while. Oh, great. It doesn't even tell me how long I've been recording. Fantastic. So, more of Narch goes by, and then the Spain team story comes out. And if you missed that story, recap it super quick. So basically, there's this team from Spain, the Lebeda Mad Eagles. They're a pro team that plays in the Liga Elite out in Spain. They're all a bunch of young kids. They came out to play in Division I and Men's Gold, but they got like 4 flight delays, and their bags all got stuck in London. They got all the way here. They had to reschedule their first game because the flight wasn't even going to land until like 6 hours after the first game ended. But they landed, and then they had like an hour to get from the airport to the rink before their next game, but they didn't have any gear. So they were going to forfeit the game. So they were going to forfeit the game, decided they're just going to cobble together gear from actually my house, which I thought it was hilarious that I was a part of the story, and I knew I was going to report on it later. I grabbed a bunch of gear from my house, let them all borrow it, like skates, fucking gym pads, and helmets, all this stuff. And they got a bunch of gear from the rinks Irvine, cobbled themselves together. I think they got mercied. I don't even remember. The next day, they were super burnt out. They were like, "This is so stupid. We're not going to play with our gear. There's no reason for us to do this. Let's just forfeit the next game. Hopefully our gear will make it by the 4th game, and then we'll just deal with the rest of the tournament." They had a whole other thing to play. And the Spain story, I will talk about this in way more depth in a future episode because I definitely sugarcoated it. I sugarcoated the shit out of the story. It was worse than I said. But the gist was Darren was going to forfeit them from Men's Gold, and to my understanding, like all future events, if they were to forfeit this game. So they got another player and cobbled together more gear, and they continued to play. It was actually against Skittles. That's where they're like, "Fuck it, we're gonna get mercied anyways. So let's just forfeit the game." So the reason I sugarcoated it was I had a friend who I wanted to preserve the relationship between my friend and Darren, and I didn't want to cause any harm to him. And my friend did not know I was Randy, but I understood the situation, and I didn't want to blow that up for him, whatever. Obviously, this is kind of where some of the bias comes into play, but I thought this was a little bit of a small olive branch that I, kind of extended to Darren, because I knew that he knew that I was not telling the whole truth, and I made it look like a much better situation than it probably was. And I think the one thing that was part of the story that may have gotten under skin a little bit was there was a text in the Lebeda Mad Eagles group chat that said Darren was pissed. That probably is, if there was a text out there that said Aiden was pissed, that doesn't make me look very good. Probably didn't make him look very good, and I understand that now looking back at it. I thought it was an olive branch, that I was kind of sugarcoating this. Obviously, that is not how it came across, and, which was a little different, wasn't. What broke the camel's back? The critique thread of the Narch tournament, and I know this is what blew everything up. I'm not going to do a full breakdown of the thread, but I feel like it was an extremely fair critiquing. It wasn't even a critique, honestly. I mean, it was just maybe it was a critique, but it was super fair. And I had after this thread, this is when I just got flooded with DMs that was like, "Oh, you hit the nail on the head, and you weren't harsh enough, and this and this and this." And I posted some of the comments, but I left out the really bad ones. But like, if you look back at the thread, I still kind of stand by everything I said. I mean, I didn't say anything bad. I said the venue was great. Maybe he should shake it up every few years or something. Because when I was a kid, I grew up where Narch Finals was San Jose, Florida, Toronto. San Jose, Florida, Toronto. And it might not have been in that order, whatever it was, but like it moved around, and it was really interesting, especially to me as a kid. I basically got to follow nationals around. It was so cool. I think that was like one of the only critiques. It was like, maybe he should shake it up a little bit, maybe not have it at Irvine every time. And then I think one of the other things was like the live stream. I didn't give him credit for the live stream, which was provided by the Ducks or CIH Media. But overall, like, there was a lot of positive things in that thread. I gave him props for the schedule. I gave him props for the promotion. I gave him props for the social media and some other stuff. And on top of that, like, I love Narch. I really do. I grew up in Southern California. I played Narch my whole life. I've been playing Narch since I was 6, which is probably the same with most of you. Back 6 and under when I played for the Thousand Oaks Warriors, and Dave Sirianni taught me every swear word I know to this day. And all the way through the Thousand Oaks Bruins and the Warhawks and Notion and all these other teams that I ended up playing for a while, all the way till today. I mean, I've been playing Narch literally my entire fucking existence. So obviously, I like the tournament. To me, growing up, Narch was it. Southern California, I didn't even know I didn't know what Tours was until I was like 21. I had no idea. I only knew what State Wars was, but I went to it twice. But it wasn't that big a part of my life. Narch was it. Obviously, I love the tournament. I still love it, and that may not be the most popular statement, but I do. It's a great way for me as an athlete to continue to play, but that doesn't mean that like there can't be aspects of it that maybe I don't like, or maybe it should just be brought to attention. So I think one thing to keep in mind is, if you know me, I am very critical of roller in every aspect. I don't think there is anything in roller hockey, anything at all, from tournaments to leagues to rinks to men's leagues to gear companies to anything. I don't think anything is above a 6 out of 10. I want roller to be a major sport, and I understand that is an insanely lofty goal, but if that's the ultimate goal, and when I'm 60 years old and I want roller to be all the way up there, then I have to pit it against the biggest sports in the world. So you could compare all of these companies and all these events and all this stuff against basketball events and how football is organized and how all this other stuff. Nothing is that great, which is okay. You got to start somewhere. I know roller's been around for 30 plus years, and it's probably not the beginning, but in the grand scheme of things, like, the only way to go is up. So a 5 out of 5 out of 10, which is the opinion critique that I gave, that's pretty fucking good. 5.5 out of 6. I mean, that's like that was higher. That was way higher than Tor's. I really thought, I genuinely believed that I was being nice. I really did. And I think Darren knows that too. I really do. I think, he obviously has a little bit of remorse of, I don't know if it's remorse or regret or pressure. I don't know why he deleted the post. I'll talk a little bit more in a second. So obviously he understands that maybe it wasn't the best thing to do. And I appreciate that. I think he knows, and I think everyone knows that the statement, "Hey, I think we should work together and make things better," which is basically the whole gist of Randy, is not a radical statement. That's not. I'm not aiming for anybody's head. I'm not trying to take away anybody's income. Like, that's a pretty fair, generic statement that I think everyone can agree with. So, what actually the reveal, the post. So, Narch posted this video of me with Randy Bronson's face over my body, holding the 2 Pro Skills trophies from this year's Narch finals, and then had a couple clips of me, like one was like blue attire during a pro game, and the other 2 were like me fucking up in the shootout skills competition. Said some stuff in the bio of it. It's whatever. The only thing I kind of want to bring up is when he said disgruntled silver level player. I think it's hilarious, really. It kind of put a smile on my face. I love getting chirped. It was a good chirp. No one has ever chirped me like that before. And I hope Darren sees the humor in, like, me wanting to kind of own that and, like, make it just, like, own that shit. Like, yeah, I'm a disgruntled silver level player. Like, fuck with me, Like, I hope he sees the humor in that. And mostly because I put it on a t-shirt, and you can get it at goodroller.com/collection/Randy-Bronson. Put that link in the description. Yes, we made Randy Bronson merch. You absolutely fucking know it. I couldn't do it before because everyone would have known it was me because I'm Good Roller. But now that everyone knows, absolutely we made Randy Bronson merch. Go get that shit right now. But yeah, I hope it's not a tease at him. It's honestly just like, this is something that, like, Barstool does all the time, and they get chirped and they throw it on a fucking t-shirt and own that shit. And it's funny. It's a joke, It's funny, really. It is, and it's just kids being jerk offs. It's just me being a jerk off. So when it got posted, I was playing a men's league game, and I got to my phone, and I had a bunch of texts, but I had 53 DMs. 53. I'll never forget that. And I wish I took a screenshot of it. That's the most DMs I've ever had for anything ever in my entire life. Every project I've ever done. Never had that many. I'm not going to say what the DM said, but a lot of them were in support of Randy. And that meant a lot to me. It really did. My phone did not stop blowing up for a long time. Hours of phone call after phone call after phone call, after text after text, after DM, after this, after Snapchats, after my phone fucking was working overtime. It was crazy. And I just want to thank everyone that reached out to me. That was like, hey, support you. Think what you're doing is great. Whatever. Hope you're okay. And that meant a lot. I just want to thank everyone. Take a second to thank everyone. That was awesome. And appreciate that a lot. Just kind of wrapping up a little bit. I hope Darren realizes, and I hope everyone realizes, all the figureheads, everybody, that I did not have an agenda with Randy coming into it. It was really just a boredom. It was a project born out of boredom and passion. I was not trying to take down the patriarchy or ruin anybody's life or take shots at people or have an income. I just wanted to talk some shit. and I just wanted to, post some stories and, I wanted to do something that was positive for the community. And I really hope that now that I've explained everything, explained the idea, and explained every situation, like now everyone knows why I'm doing this, where I'm coming from, that everyone kind of agree with, what I'm doing. I hope, obviously not everyone's going to agree, but I hope that most people do. This is, another thing I want to mention is that aside from wanting to make things better, Randy blew up way faster than anybody anticipated, which I'm extremely thankful for. That doesn't mean I made every correct move every time or didn't ruffle any feathers along the way, but he blew the fuck up, and, again, appreciate all the support. See what else I got on here. So I'm just going to kind of call back to about a year and a half ago. I had a phone call with Darren. And I previous to this, had a pretty good relationship with Darren. And as stated in the post, he did try and help me with a rink that I was trying to save from getting shut down. By the way, another rink that I tried to get saved from shut down actually did get saved. So shout out to Ventura Roller Sports. We saved that fucking shit. That rink got saved from pickleball. We're going to have a whole episode about that. But I called him and I basically said, hey, Darren, this was during COVID. I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be running some tournaments in the area, some Ironman tournaments, specifically. I didn't want to step on his toes. I basically said, I don't want you to think that I'm going behind your back, because he has helped me with other stuff before. I don't think I want you to be stepping on my toes. I'm avoiding Narch weekends. I'm not trying to conflict with you. I hope, I'm not doing this behind your back, and I hope Darren remembers that. I really do. I truly feel like I'm innocent, and at least as innocent as I can be. And I did all of this for pure intentions. At least, maybe not everything was correct, but all my intentions were pure. How is Randy Bronson going to continue? So, as far as the Twitter account goes, business as usual. I am going to, obviously I can't report in the exact same anonymous 100% truth fashion that I did when I was anonymous, but I'm going to stay as close as I possibly can. Obviously, if there is a horrendous story that would negatively affect my life, I probably won't publish it unless I think it's funny. I'm usually a pretty critical person of myself. So if I do some dumb shit, then I'm probably gonna post that dumb shit. I can critique myself. I can do that. Secondly, is this the Randy Bronson Show? And I know that this has literally just been me talking for probably way too fucking long. But I'll have guests in here and I'll have co-hosts, and we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff. I have so many stories to tell the world. So many bullshit roller hockey things that have happened. And I know if you've ever spoken to me, I can rant for fucking ever about shit that happens in roller. So that's just gonna be me. That's gonna be the Randy Bronson Show. It's not really gonna be interviews so much. I think Roller Dad News and Wheel Talk do that, or Roller Dad News specifically really does that well. Oh, and the Wheeling Around podcast does that super well. I'm not really going to get into that. I'm not going to be interviewing people. I think they do an amazing job of what they do. I want to do something different. I want to add variety to this, and this is going to be way closer to the Joe Rogan experience, where it's kind of interviews, just co-hosts and stuff, but it's not an interview. It's talking shit. It's covering stuff. It's talking about ideas. I want to talk about what is, just discuss what is it going to take to grow roller? What are the steps we have to take? What should the Olympics look like? All a bunch of different stuff, critiquing the different kind of wheels, whatever it is. It's not going to be interviews. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to go a different direction. But yeah, and I want to do that well. I want to create more content for the roller world. And the last way that I'm going to continue Randy Bronson is with Brandy Ronson. So Brandy Ronson is going to be a alternate Twitter account. I'm going to use the same Instagram account. It's going to be an alternate Twitter account that is basically the Onion, or the Babylon Bee if you follow the Babylon Bee of roller hockey. If you don't know what the Onion or the Babylon Bee is, They are satire news sources where everything they say is 100% made up and false. They are fake stories that are used to, they're funny, they're memes, they're hilarious, and I don't think roller hockey has enough memes. They just don't. There's not enough memes about roller. And as you know, I run the Good Roller Company. We've posted like 3 or 4 memes, and those are still to this day the most liked posts I've ever had. And they were just funny digs. And so if we kind of integrate the ideas behind Randy Bronson and talking about actual real people in the roller world with satire, fake news, bullshit, funny memes, I think that could really turn into a lot of really great content. And the way that you're going to know that it's a Brandy Bronson post as opposed to a Randy Bronson post is Randy Bronson Twitter screenshots are going to be dark. Brandy Bronson Twitter screenshots are going to be white. It's also going to be a different account. So, I'm trying to make it as different as possible, or like as distinctual as possible. And so you understand that when Brandy Bronson posts, it is fake. It is not a real story. It is just fun memes, all in good fun. So yeah, again, just a couple small stories to kind of wrap up here that didn't really fit into the sequence of events, or I don't really remember when they happened. There is a guy, and I'm going to talk about this guy later on another podcast. This guy that fucking hates my guts. I know he hates me. There has been so many situations where he had told me to my face that he hates me, to other people that he hates me. He hates me. He DM'd Randy Bronson saying, dude, you're so cool. I love your page, and I'm so glad that someone has the balls to say what everybody is thinking. And I basically said just like, thank you, sir. After I got exposed, I took a screenshot of that message that he sent Randy, and I texted it to him, and I was like, isn't this funny now? He never responded. But that was hilarious. That also made all this worth it. Let's see. The Lot Dogs boys. Okay, so the Lot Dogs came into this twice. First off, there was 1 or 2 guys on that team that kind of thought it was me from the beginning. And at Narch Finals, I played against them in Division 1, and they started chirping me on the rink. Yo, Bronson, fuck you, Bronson, or like whatever they were saying. And I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't flinch. I didn't turn my head. I didn't smile. I didn't do nothing. But now that I've been exposed, that shit was funny as fuck that they were chirping me about Bronson. I was smiling on the way home. That was really funny. So props to the Lot Dogs boys for kind of calling that before anybody else. That was good. Props, credit where credit's due. On top of that, I know that they were fucking obsessed with finding out who Randy Bronson was. I mean, obsessed. And they were in a Discord call at one point with like 12 of them in a call, and for like 3 or 4 hours they played Sherlock Holmes, trying to decipher every tweet and every photo and every video and every word I said to figure out who the fuck is Randy Bronson. And I just think that is so funny that they spent all this time like searching for who it was, and I'm just this fucking dinky ass kid out in Arizona. Yeah, just props to the Lot Dog boys for how much they gave a shit and how much they cared. That was really funny. So yeah, there you go. That is the Randy Bronson story, the saga, you might say. So we've covered everything. We've covered everything that happened, everything that transpired. I hope you can see where I came from and how we're going to continue this. And Randy Bronson will never die.